How is it going, everybody? My name is DeMarco, and today I want to have a conversation, not necessarily the most fun discussion, but something that I think is important to talk about, especially as we get closer to E3. More likely than not, we're going to start seeing some rumors and some leaks that are popping up that are just tangible, or just grounded enough for us to believe, yeah, that we can't prove that you're fake. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's just somebody's wish list or somebody who wants to gain some internet notoriety for a day or 2 days or a week or however long the leak goes around before it's proven not to be real. Ultimately, I want to try to avoid people getting disappointed about Starfield. When we talk about speculation, we go in with the mindset that yes, this is just for fun. This is to talk about all the possibilities that could potentially be in Starfield, but we know it's for fun. When a leak gets presented to us, it's more likely than not shown to us as something that is fact, and that can mess with our expectations, that can mess with our assumptions of what Starfield is, to the point where in some, but not all cases, we might even go back and blame Bethesda when Starfield isn't what we thought it was going to be. And that's not really fair to them. We're going to talk about hype, expectations, managing them both, and the differences between them. But additionally, I hope that you guys get to know me a little bit better by the end of this video, right? Yes, I spend a lot of time talking and hyping up and being excited for Starfield, of which there's tons of excitement to go around. But at the end of the day, what's my actual mentality towards this or any anticipated release? The first thing to talk about is hype, and it's important to realize that A, hype is subjective, and B, in many ways self-imposed. There's a reason why there's such varying levels of excitement, whether it's towards Hogwarts Legacy or Starfield or God of War Ragnarok, any title that you can possibly think of. And yes, of course, the developers and the marketers play a part in generating hype, but that is their job. When people say that a game was overhyped, that isn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, it means that the marketing team did a good job, because if more people are talking about it, then they're likely getting more press coverage, which means it will ultimately result in more sales. But there's a good way and a bad way to generate hype, and that is evident in the way Elden Ring released versus Cyberpunk. Elden Ring won 2 years in a row the most anticipated game because of its delay. Cyberpunk arguably was more hyped than Elden Ring was in some ways, and yet it completely failed because it did not meet expectations, and that's where the key difference lies. Now, expectations are set both by fans and the developers and the marketing team themselves. We'll talk more about that, but Forbes put it really well, where they mentioned if you present your product in an ethical way, if you provide real facts, if you provide great content, and you collaborate with the right people, you will build healthy hype. Then ultimately, when customers experience your product, experience your game, experience your service, they'll leave happy, and it might turn some people who are cautious optimists into fans or even super fans of the game. Is there a right level of hype? No. Cautious optimists are just as warranted as super fans, but it gets dangerous when either extreme starts to tamper with how you approach other people with the differing viewpoint. Extremists on both sides in most situations is a bad thing. When you refuse to allow people to not like a game that you liked, or you refuse people to enjoy a game that you hated, that is when hype becomes dangerous. But it's still not the same as expectations. Expectations are set by the developers, what they promote, what they say we can do in the game, the features of it, how expansive it is, how long it takes to beat, all of those great things that are definitive facts that are given to us, the players, the consumers. But there's also assumptions which are brought on by the player base. There's a healthy level of assumptions. That's when speculation is fun, but there's also a level where it can start to get toxic when we start looking at something as though it is presented as fact, as though this is the way that it has to be. For example, in the case of Starfield, one of the most talked about things is whether or not you'll be able to pilot your own ships. And I've had it in my own comment section where people are saying, I don't understand how this is a debate anymore. Of course, we're going to be able to fly our own ships. I have other people who are saying, if you can't fly your own ship, then this is going to be a bad game. How is it going to be the best sci-fi RPG of all time if you can't pilot your own ship manually? And this is where I think it starts to get dangerous, because people are making these assumptions, and ultimately the developers haven't said yes or no, we can do it. Of course, there's things that you might want to look at that may tease the fact, but that doesn't mean confirmation in any capacity. Most recently on Reddit, there was a post that showcased a flight manual that was showcased in the in-engine trailer that we got a while back. People pointed to this and said, well, if we have a flight manual, why would Bethesda include this detail? Why would Bethesda include buttons for weapons and for shields in the trailer if it's not going to be utilized? And to their credit, folks did actually point out that, well, Bethesda might just be including it to make it seem more believable. Bethesda all the time puts objects in their game that have no purpose other than feeling realistic. Why can't it just be there for ambience, for immersion? Why can't it be there similar to magazines that we get in Fallout or books that you can read in the games that increase your skills? Now, if Bethesda comes out at their E3 presentation and says you can fly anywhere in this region of space, but they don't actually clarify that you aren't the one that's flying the ship, well, then they're not setting expectations correctly. But if they come out and explicitly say, no, you're not the one that's actually sitting in the pilot's chair, then fans get angry at Bethesda because they say, well, how dare you not include that in the game? Starfield sucks and it's going to be terrible and all these really rude and nasty things. That's not the developer's fault. They never said it would be there to begin with. So how do we manage our hype, our expectations, our assumptions so that it doesn't end up in a toxic way? We want to let ourselves get excited a game, but we can't get too excited about a game. It seems contradictory, but it's actually easier than you might think. For starters, go straight to the source material. And I say that to the detriment of my own content. Look at exactly what was said explicitly. Yes, the game has this. No, Starfield doesn't have this. Exactly what was said. And as much fun as it is to read between the lines, to try to find out what hidden meanings Todd might be alluding to, we have to, at the end of the day, take a step back and realize this is just us. This isn't what Bethesda has officially confirmed. And then on top of that, look for content creators who don't necessarily agree with your opinion. If you are stalwart that you will see pilotable vehicles in the game, one, recognize that it wasn't confirmed yet, and two, try to find someone who doesn't agree with that opinion and remain open-minded about that. Challenge your thoughts, and if you feel so inclined, challenge the video maker's thoughts in the comment section, but do it politely. Do it in a way as if you were talking to your friend about the subject. And it's completely fine to agree to disagree. There's nothing wrong with that. But especially if they're willing to engage in that discussion and engage in that conversation, I think that's a really healthy approach. And if everybody's keeping an open mind, it's more fun for you. It's more fun for me as a content creator when I see those types of discussions. And on top of that, it helps us make sure that we keep a level head about what Starfield actually is. But again, just to reiterate, and last time I'll make this point, it's the extreme levels on both sides are what you have to be wary of. So anyway, let me know your thoughts about all of this down in the comment section below. I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say, but thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you all next time. So long, everybody.